Captain Susan Clark gazed through the viewport as the Earth ship entered the massive docking bay of Centaurus Station. After 3 weeks in hyperspace, they had finally arrived at the seat of the Galactic Council. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Frank Wilson, adjusting his formal uniform beside her. "Should I be?" Susan replied, though she couldn't hide the tension in her voice. As Earth's first official delegation to the Council, everything rode on this meeting. The ship settled into the docking clamps with a gentle shudder. Beyond the transparent walls of the bay, Susan could see dozens of alien vessels, sleek, crystalline structures that made their own ship look like a crude metal box. "Remember," Frank said quietly, "no matter what they say, we represent all of humanity today." Susan nodded. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, stumbling upon the principles by accident. The galaxy had been watching them since, but this was humanity's first formal introduction. The airlock cycled open. A delegation of 6 aliens waited in the corridor, tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and large, multifaceted eyes. The leader stepped forward. "I am Counselor Vextra," it said through a translation device. "Welcome to Centaurus Station, humans." Susan stepped forward. "Captain Susan Clark, representing the United Earth Government. This is Dr. Frank Wilson, our chief scientist." Vextra's eye facets shifted. "Follow us to the council chamber. They are waiting." The hallway stretched seemingly forever, filled with aliens of every description. Some looked almost human, others defied classification entirely. Many stopped to stare at the Earth delegation. "They're treating us like zoo animals," Frank whispered. "Can you blame them?" Susan replied, "We're the new kids on the block." The council chamber was enormous, a vast amphitheater with 700 seats arranged in concentric circles. Only about 200 were filled, representing the major species of the galaxy. At the center stood a raised platform. "The humans may approach," announced a booming voice. Susan and Frank walked forward, feeling the weight of alien gazes upon them. The center platform held 7 beings, the High Council, rulers of galactic civilization for 10,000 years. "Earth sends its greetings," Susan began, reciting the carefully prepared speech. "We come seeking friendship and knowledge exchange." "Your propulsion technology is primitive," interrupted a counselor with metallic skin. "Your ships crawl through space at barely twice light speed." Susan faltered. "We're still developing our—" "And your weapon systems," laughed another counselor, a gaseous being contained in a floating sphere. "Particle beams and nuclear devices, like children with stones." Frank stepped forward. "With respect, we've only had interstellar capability for 5 years. Most species require centuries to develop reliable FTL," noted a smaller insectoid counselor. "You've done well, for primitives." "We have other technologies in development," Susan said carefully, "including dimensional engineering that." Laughter rippled through the chamber. "Dimensional engineering," mocked the metallic counselor. "You barely understand 4 dimensions." The lead counselor, a crystalline being, raised a glowing appendage for silence. "Humans, we acknowledge your application for council membership. However, you clearly lack the technological and cultural development required." "What will it take to prove ourselves?" Susan asked. "Perhaps in a century or 2, the gaseous counselor said dismissively. "Until then, Earth may maintain observer status only. You are restricted from expanding beyond your solar system without permission." Susan felt her face flush with anger, but Frank touched her arm in warning. "We understand," Frank said carefully, "though Earth hopes to demonstrate its value sooner." "Bold words," said the insectoid, mandibles clicking in amusement. "We shall see." As they were escorted out, Susan clenched her fists. "They treated us like children." Frank's expression was grim but determined. "They haven't seen what we're working on back home. Project Tesseract will change everything." "If it works," Susan replied, looking back at the chamber doors. "When it works," Frank corrected. Then we'll see who's laughing. The wind howled across the Antarctic ice as Dr. Olivia Nelson made her way from the small surface building to the elevator. At -40 degrees, even the advanced thermal suits struggled to keep her warm during the short walk. She pressed her palm against the scanner, and the doors slid open. "Going down," said the automated system as the elevator began its descent, dropping 2 miles beneath the ice sheet to Earth's most classified facility, Project Tesseract. The doors opened to reveal a vast underground cavern housing a structure unlike anything else on Earth. At its center stood a ship, if it could even be called that. The horizons beyond resembled a series of overlapping geometric shapes that seemed to shift and change depending on the viewing angle. Dr. Nelson called Paul Garcia, walking across the main floor with a tablet in hand. As chief engineer, he had barely slept in weeks. "We've solved the power fluctuation problem." "Just in time," Olivia replied. The council meeting was a disaster. Captain Clark and Dr. Wilson arrived back this morning. Paul's expression darkened. "They laughed at us, didn't they?" "Worse. They patted us on the head like children and sent us home with observer status only." They walked together toward the central control room, passing dozens of scientists and engineers working at various stations. The chamber hummed with energy as systems came online for the day's tests. "General Rivera is upstairs with the Joint Chiefs," Paul said quietly. "They're losing patience. We've spent trillions on this project with nothing to show yet." Olivia stopped and turned to him. "We're trying to bend the very fabric of reality, Paul. It takes time. Time we may not have. The Galactic Council has restricted our expansion. Some nations are already talking about ignoring those restrictions." They entered the control room, where a 3D holographic model of the ship rotated slowly above the central table. 8 years ago, an archaeological team had discovered the ruins beneath the Antarctic ice, clearly not of human origin. Among the artifacts were mathematical equations describing the geometry of higher dimensions. "The simulations are ready," announced Carol Wright, their lead test engineer. "Power levels stable at 95%. Olivia studied the readouts. "What about the dimensional anchor? Is it holding?" "Rock solid," Carol confirmed. "Whatever you did with the algorithms yesterday worked." The door slid open, and General Maria Rivera entered with Dr. Frank Wilson. Everyone stood a little straighter. "I need good news," Rivera said without preamble. "The president is facing pressure from the Security Council." Frank spotted Olivia and walked over. "The aliens laughed at us. Liv actually laughed." "Not for long," she replied, gesturing to the hologram. "We're ready for the next phase of testing." Rivera raised an eyebrow. "Human testing? We've only done drone tests so far." "The drones can't navigate in higher dimensions," Paul explained. "We need human intuition for that." "And who's volunteering for this suicide mission?" Rivera asked. A voice came from the doorway. "I am." They turned to see Commander John Murphy, former test pilot, and the project's designated first human navigator. "The simulations show 98% survival probability," John said calmly. "And the other 2%?" Rivera asked. "Spread across 5 dimensions," Paul answered honestly. "But we've solved the stability issues." Olivia walked to the observation window overlooking the ship. "The aliens think we're centuries away from understanding higher dimensional physics, but they don't know what we found here." "When can we launch?" Frank asked. 3 days, Olivia replied. "We'll need to run final calibrations, but the ship is ready." General Rivera studied the strange vessel below. 3 days to change humanity's future. Make them count. As the meeting broke up, Paul stayed beside Olivia at the window. "Do you ever wonder about the beings who left those ruins? Why they abandoned their research?" Olivia's eyes remained fixed on the ship. "Maybe they didn't abandon it. Maybe they succeeded and moved beyond our universe entirely." "And soon we'll follow," Paul whispered. Commander John Murphy sat strapped in the pilot chair of the Horizons Beyond, his heartbeat steady despite what lay ahead. The interior of the ship barely resembled conventional spacecraft. Instead of typical controls, a crystalline interface surrounded him, responding to both touch and thought. Final systems check complete, John reported through his Neuralink. Ready for launch sequence. In the control center 2 miles beneath Antarctic ice, the atmosphere was tense. Dr. Olivia Nelson watched the monitors with Paul Garcia at her side. General Rivera stood behind them, arms crossed. All dimensional anchor points are stable, Paul announced. Power systems at optimal levels. Olivia leaned forward to speak into the communication system. John, remember the simulation. When the drive activates, reality will shift. Trust your training. Copy that, John replied. I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. The countdown began. The massive underground hangar doors above the ship slid open, revealing a tunnel leading up through the ice to the surface. T-minus 10 seconds, the automated system announced. Olivia closed her eyes briefly. Everything we know about physics is about to change. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Initiate. John pressed his palm against the central crystal. The ship hummed to life, rising smoothly through the exit tunnel. Within minutes, it had reached the surface and continued climbing into the Antarctic sky. Altitude 20 kilometers, reported Carol from her station. All conventional systems normal. Preparing dimensional drive, John announced as the ship reached low Earth orbit. Starting the sequence now. Inside the ship, the crystalline controls began to pulse with light. John placed both hands on the central interface and closed his eyes, visualizing the mathematical constructs he had memorized. Dimensional boundary approaching, he said, his voice remarkably calm. Initiating transition in 3, 2, 1. On every monitor in the control room, the ship's image suddenly distorted. It seemed to fold in on itself, stretching in impossible directions before vanishing completely. Signal lost, Carol shouted, fingers flying across her console. No conventional readings. That's expected, Olivia said, though her knuckles were white as she gripped the edge of the console. If it worked, he's no longer in our dimensional space. Silence fell over the control room. Seconds stretched into minutes. How long before we consider this a failure? General Rivera asked quietly. Olivia checked her watch. The test parameters allow for up to 15 minutes of transition time. At the 12-minute mark, alarms suddenly blared across every console. Dimensional distortion detected, Paul shouted. But it's not coming from Antarctica. It's appearing near Alpha Centauri. That's impossible, Rivera whispered. That's over 4 light years away. The communication system crackled to life, filled with static and distortion. Control, this is Murphy. You won't believe. I can see. Incredible. The signal cleared as the ship fully re-entered normal space. Control, this is Murphy reporting successful transition. According to my instruments, I'm in orbit around Proxima Centauri. The journey took approximately 8 seconds from my perspective. Stunned silence filled the control room before it erupted in cheers and embraces. Olivia collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. John, she said when she could speak again, can you confirm your position? Confirming now, he replied. I'm sending visual data. There's a planet below me. Matches all our telescope data of Proxima b. I can see its star. I'm really here, Olivia. It worked. On the main screen, images appeared of an alien star system, humanity's nearest stellar neighbor, reached not in years but seconds. Prepare for return journey, Paul instructed, his voice shaking with emotion. Follow the exact same protocols in reverse. General Rivera was already on her secure phone. Mr. President, Project Tesseract has succeeded beyond our wildest expectations. Humanity just changed forever. Across the galaxy, Sensors of advanced civilizations suddenly detected an impossible dimensional anomaly from the direction of Earth. The emergency lights flashed throughout the Galactic Council chamber as delegates rushed to their seats. In the 10,000 years of the Council's existence, an emergency session had only been called 17 times. High Counselor Zex Terra stood at the central podium, crystal skin glittering under the chamber lights. "This council is now in emergency session," he announced, his voice echoing through the vast hall. "The reason for this gathering is a dimensional anomaly detected in the Sol system, specifically originating from the planet Earth." He gestured to a holographic display showing a pulsing energy signature. The anomaly appeared near Earth, then instantaneously reappeared at Proxima Centauri, before returning to Earth. Murmurs spread through the gathered representatives. Ambassador Vorn of the technologically advanced Vestran Empire rose from his seat. "Surely this is some natural phenomenon," he said dismissively. "The humans barely have functional hyperspace capability. They cannot possibly have developed dimensional technology." Science Director Cleva, a small six-limbed being, activated her speaking light. "I have analyzed the data. This was no natural phenomenon. The energy signature matches theoretical models of 7th-dimensional space folding." The chamber erupted in chaotic discussion. 7th-dimensional technology was considered purely theoretical by even the most advanced civilizations. "Impossible," shouted Ambassador Vorn. "We met their representatives just 30 Earth days ago. Their technology was primitive at best." High Counselor Zex Terra raised his arms for silence. "We have testimony from Delegate Rilar, who was assigned as observer to Earth after their delegation's visit." A hologram appeared showing a nervous-looking avian being. "High Council, I have been monitoring Earth communications. While most of their technology remains primitive, they have been operating a secret project in their Antarctic region. My scans detected unusual energy readings, but nothing that suggested dimensional capabilities." "They deceived us," hissed Ambassador Vorn. "They presented themselves as technological infants while developing weapons of immense power." Elder Mosery, the oldest member of the council at over 700 years, slowly rose from her seat. The chamber fell silent in respect. "Let us not rush to conclusions," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Earth is young. Perhaps they did not intend deception, but merely wished to prove themselves worthy before revealing their capabilities. Or perhaps," countered Military Commander Drac, "they deliberately concealed this technology to develop it as a weapon. 7th-dimensional travel would make our defensive systems useless." The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for immediate military action to secure the technology. Others suggested diplomatic approaches. A few even proposed that the humans be invited immediately to full council membership. "We cannot allow such power to remain solely in human hands," argued Ambassador Vorn. "At minimum, we must confiscate this technology for the safety of all." Elder Mosery shook her head. "Force would be a mistake. If they truly control 7th-dimensional technology, a military approach could be disastrous." High Counselor Zex Terra studied the reports before him. "We need more information before deciding. I propose we send an investigative fleet to Earth, not as an invasion force, but as a show of concerned interest." The vote was nearly unanimous. Within hours, ships from 7 major council species were preparing for departure to the Sol system. The fleet would include diplomatic vessels, scientific ships, and, though not officially acknowledged, significant military capability. On Earth, the celebrations over the successful test of Horizons Beyond were interrupted by urgent messages from the long-range detection station on Pluto's moon. "Dr. Nelson," said General Rivera, entering the control room with a grim expression, "we're detecting multiple ships entering the outer solar system. Alien ships. A lot of them." Paul Garcia looked up from his console. "They noticed our test." "Of course they did," Olivia replied. "We just rewrote the laws of physics. Did we really think they wouldn't notice?" General Rivera's face hardened. How quickly can we prepare the other prototype ships? The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 47 ships of various designs representing the major powers of the Galactic Council. At their center flew the massive diplomatic vessel Voice of Harmony, carrying Council representatives. On the bridge of Earth's orbital defense station, Captain Susan Clark watched the tactical display with a mixture of concern and pride. "They certainly didn't waste any time," she said to Dr. Frank Wilson, who stood beside her. "Less than 2 weeks since our test. And they brought enough firepower to glass the planet," Frank observed grimly. "Those aren't just diplomatic vessels." The communication officer looked up from her station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. They're requesting permission to approach Earth for diplomatic discussions regarding recent technological developments." Susan nodded. "Put it on screen." The alien face that appeared was vaguely reptilian with iridescent scales. Ambassador Vorn of the Vestran Empire. "Greetings, humans," he said, his translator conveying a tone of forced politeness. "The Galactic Council has sent us to discuss the dimensional anomaly your world recently produced." Susan straightened her uniform. "We welcome the Council's interest, Ambassador. Earth is prepared for these discussions. We request your fleet maintain position beyond Mars orbit as a security precaution." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Such precautions are unnecessary. We come in peace." "Then you won't mind respecting our space," Susan replied firmly. "One diplomatic vessel may approach Earth. The rest remain beyond Mars." Before Vorn could respond, Frank stepped forward. "Perhaps the Council would be interested in a demonstration of our new technology before negotiations begin." The alien hesitated, then nodded slowly. "The Council representatives would indeed be curious about your achievements." "Excellent," Susan said. "The demonstration will begin in 6 hours. Please have your observers ready." When the transmission ended, Frank turned to Susan. "Are the ships ready?" "All 6 prototypes are operational," she confirmed. "Commander Murphy is briefing the pilots now." 6 hours later, representatives from 12 Council species gathered on observation decks throughout their fleet. On Earth, mission control beneath Antarctica buzzed with activity as final preparations were made. "All pilots report ready," Paul Garcia announced. "Dimensional drives synchronized." Dr. Olivia Nelson took a deep breath. "This will be the largest multi-dimensional fold ever attempted. If it works." "When it works," Paul corrected with a smile. In orbit above Earth, 6 ships identical to the original Horizons Beyond moved into formation. Unlike conventional spacecraft, they resembled intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they moved. Commander John Murphy sat in the lead ship. "All vessels report dimensional drives at full power, ready to execute on your mark." In the alien fleet, sensors focused intently on the human ships. Ambassador Vorn watched from the bridge of Voice of Harmony, surrounded by Council scientists. "Such unusual designs," noted Science Director Cleva. "They appear to be physical manifestations of 7th-Dimensional mathematics." "Begin the demonstration," came the order from Earth Control. The 6 ships activated their drives simultaneously. What happened next stunned even the most experienced Council observers. The space around the vessels seemed to fold in upon itself, creating a cascading ripple effect of light and energy. For a brief moment, all 6 ships existed in multiple places at once, creating a shimmering lattice of quantum possibilities. Then they vanished completely. Alarms blared across the alien fleet as sensors detected dimensional distortions throughout the solar system. In rapid succession, the 6 Earth ships appeared at different locations, one near Jupiter, another by Venus, 2 at Earth's Lagrange points, one near the Moon, and one directly behind the alien flagship. Before the Council representatives could recover from their shock, the ships vanished again, reappearing in perfect hexagonal formation in front of the alien fleet. Demonstration complete. John Murphy transmitted on all frequencies. "As you can see, Earth has mastered 7th-dimensional travel. We can appear anywhere, anytime. Through means your sensors cannot track or predict. On the voice of harmony, Ambassador Vorn stood speechless as council scientists frantically analyzed the data. Science Director Kleva finally broke the silence. This technology is beyond theoretical. They've achieved what we considered impossible. The grand meeting chamber aboard the Voice of Harmony buzzed with tension. On one side sat the Earth delegation, Captain Susan Clark, Dr. Frank Wilson, Dr. Olivia Nelson, and Commander John Murphy. Across from them, representatives of the Galactic Council's major powers studied them with new interest. Ambassador Vorn spoke first, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's lights. Your demonstration was impressive. The Council requires an explanation of this technology. Susan leaned forward. Earth is prepared to share limited information about our dimensional drive, provided we receive full membership in the Galactic Council. Impossible, hissed a gaseous being contained in a floating sphere. You haven't earned such status through centuries of development. You've simply stumbled upon advanced technology. Dr. Olivia Nelson's eyes flashed. We didn't stumble upon anything. We developed it ourselves. Based on what? Challenged Science Director Kleva. Frank and Olivia exchanged glances before Frank nodded slightly. 8 years ago, Olivia began, we discovered ancient ruins beneath our Antarctic ice. The site contained mathematical equations describing higher dimensional geometry. While the artifacts were clearly not of human origin, the equations themselves were useless without the proper understanding. So you admit you stole this technology? Vorn exclaimed. No, Olivia continued calmly. The equations were like finding an ancient tool without instructions. What makes humans unique is our neural structure. Our brains allowed us to intuitively grasp concepts that the original creators could only approach mathematically. Commander Murphy joined in. When I pilot the ship, I don't just push buttons. I literally think in 7 dimensions. It's not something we programmed. It's something we discovered within ourselves. The council representatives muttered among themselves. This is troubling, said Elder Mosery after a moment. If what you say is true, humans possess a dangerous natural ability. Perhaps too dangerous. Military Commander Drac leaned forward, his mechanical eye focusing on the humans. There are those on the council who believe this technology should be contained or eliminated if necessary. Your species has hardly proven its peaceful intentions in your own history. Susan felt a chill at the thinly veiled threat. Are you suggesting the council would consider military action against Earth? The council has faced existential threats before, Drac replied evenly. We have eliminated them when necessary. Frank kept his voice level despite his rising anger. Our ships just demonstrated they can appear anywhere instantaneously. Do you really believe you could successfully attack us? The tension in the room grew thick enough to cut with a knife. Outside the viewport, the Earth ships maintained their formation, a constant reminder of the new power dynamic. Perhaps, Elder Mosery said softly, we are approaching this incorrectly. Instead of threats, we should consider opportunities. A simian being with silver fur spoke up. The technology could revolutionize galactic transportation, medicine, energy production. If humans can truly navigate 7-dimensional space. The question remains, interrupted Vorn. Can humans be trusted with such power? They are unpredictable, emotional, and have no history of peaceful cooperation beyond their own world. Dr. Olivia Nelson stood up. With respect, Ambassador, humanity has united our entire planet to develop this technology. We've overcome centuries of division. We didn't build these ships as weapons, but as bridges to the stars. Pretty words, sneered Drac. But words are cheap. John Murphy smiled slightly. They're not just words. While we've been talking, our ships have been transmitting dimensional maps of safe corridors through the galaxy to your vessels. Pathways that would cut travel time by 90%. Consider it a gesture of good faith. The council representatives checked their data feeds in surprise, confirming Murphy's claim. We came here today, Susan said firmly, not to threaten or to boast, but to join a community of worlds. Earth wants to be part of the Galactic Council, not its adversary. The alien representatives fell into intense discussion among themselves. The humans waited, knowing the next few minutes would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Finally, Elder Mosery raised a gnarled hand for silence. This council must carefully consider Earth's position. The decision cannot be rushed. "How much time do you need?" Frank asked. "We will reconvene in 12 Earth hours," Mosery replied. "Until then, this session is adjourned." As the Earth delegation left the chamber, Susan whispered to her colleagues, "They're afraid of us now." "Good," John replied quietly. "But fear can lead to dangerous decisions. The next 12 hours will be critical." The 12 hours passed with excruciating slowness for the Earth delegation. They waited aboard their command ship, the Horizons Beyond, while the Galactic Council deliberated. In Earth orbit below, military forces remained on high alert, though everyone understood conventional weapons would be useless if the Council decided on conflict. "They've been talking for 11 hours and 50 minutes, Commander John Murphy said, checking his watch. "Either this is the most thorough discussion in Council history, or they're preparing something we won't like." Dr. Frank Wilson shook his head. "They're scared. We've upended their power structure overnight. And scared people make bad decisions," Captain Susan Clark added grimly. The communication system chimed. "Earth delegation, please return to the voice of harmony for the Council's decision." As they prepared to transfer to the alien vessel, Dr. Olivia Nelson pulled Susan aside. "Whatever happens in there, remember we have options they don't know about yet." Susan nodded. "The dimensional phase shield. Paul Garcia confirmed it works. If they attack, we can shift Earth partially out of normal spacetime. They couldn't touch us." When they arrived at the Council chamber, they found it rearranged. The circular table had been replaced by two opposing sides, creating a more confrontational atmosphere. All 13 major Council races were represented, with Military Commander Drac and Ambassador Vorn prominently positioned. Elder Mosery spoke first. "The Council has reached a decision regarding Earth's status and the dimensional technology." The humans braced themselves. By majority vote, the Council has determined that Earth's technology presents both opportunity and risk. Mosery continued. Some members, she glanced at Drac and Vorn, advocated for containment measures. Susan felt her heart sink. Containment was a diplomatic word for military action. However, Mosery said, raising a hand, others recognized that such action would be both impractical and potentially disastrous given your demonstrated capabilities. A new figure stepped forward, a tall, willowy being with luminescent skin who hadn't been present before. "I am High Counselor Zex Terra," it said. "I was summoned from the homeworld when the Council reached an impasse." The Earth delegation recognized this as significant. The High Counselor rarely involved themselves in species admission decisions. "Earth has demonstrated technology that could benefit all galactic civilization," Zex Terra continued. "Yet your species remains young, impulsive, and untested in the greater community." Frank tensed, preparing to object, but Susan touched his arm in warning. Therefore, the High Counselor announced, "Earth will be granted provisional full membership in the Galactic Council, with certain conditions." The humans exchanged surprised glances. First, a Technology Oversight Committee will be established, with equal representation from Earth and Council races. Second, dimensional travel in Council space will follow strict protocols. Third, Earth will accept Council representatives at your dimensional research facilities. Susan stepped forward. "These terms are reasonable, High Counselor." "Earth accepts." Ambassador Vorn made a sharp gesture of protest. "This is unprecedented. They should not be rewarded for technological deception." A new voice cut through the tension. Dr. Olivia Nelson's. "With respect, Ambassador, Earth never deceived anyone. When your Council dismissed us as primitives, we simply returned home to complete our work." Perhaps if you had shown more interest in cooperation than condescension, this situation would have developed differently. The chamber fell silent at her boldness. After a moment, Science Director Cleaver chittered softly in what might have been laughter. The human has a point, Forn. Our arrogance created this situation as much as their ambition. High Counselor Zexterra raised both arms. It is decided. Let preparations begin for Earth's formal induction. This council is adjourned. As the aliens filed out, Elder Mosery approached the humans. You have changed the balance of power in our galaxy overnight. Many will resist this change. Change is inevitable, John Murphy replied, even across 7 dimensions. 3 months later, the Horizons Beyond departed Earth with a crew unlike any before. 6 humans and representatives from 5 council races, all trained in 7-dimensional navigation. Their mission: to establish diplomatic relations with civilizations beyond council space. On the bridge, Captain Susan Clark settled into the command chair. Beside her, Dr. Olivia Nelson and Paul Garcia monitored the dimensional drive systems. All stations report ready, announced the Venturi communications officer. 5 years after Earth joined the Galactic Council, the universe had changed in ways few could have imagined. The Horizons Beyond had become legend, but its successor ship, the Dimensional Voyager, represented the next evolution in 7-dimensional technology. Dr. Olivia Nelson walked through the ship's central corridor, now Chief Science Officer of Earth's most advanced vessel. The crew, 20 humans and 15 aliens from various council races, worked together with an efficiency that would have seemed impossible just years ago. Status report, Olivia asked as she entered the bridge. Captain Eric Russell, who had taken command after Susan Clark became Earth's ambassador to the Council, turned from the main console. All systems nominal. We're preparing for the first test of the enhanced dimensional drive. The bridge crew, a mix of human and alien faces, focused intently on their tasks. Unlike the original 7-dimensional drive, this new system could navigate between dimensional planes that even the Council's oldest races had only theorized about. Any word from home? Olivia asked. The latest council meeting went well, Eric replied. The Oversight Committee approved our expedition to the Galactic Core. We're officially the first ship authorized to study the supermassive black hole up close. Olivia nodded. What had begun as suspicious oversight had evolved into genuine collaboration. The committee now functioned as a research partnership rather than a restrictive body. Dr. Nelson, called Zix, the Venturi navigation officer. The dimensional calculations are complete. We've mapped a safe corridor through the 9th dimension. The 9th dimension. Even Olivia, who had pioneered the original technology, sometimes found it hard to believe how far they had come. Begin pre-jump sequence, Eric ordered. As the crew prepared for the test, Olivia's mind drifted to the changes back on Earth. The integration of alien technology had transformed human society. Clean energy, advanced medicine, and instantaneous global transportation had eliminated many of humanity's oldest problems. But perhaps the most profound change was psychological. Humans now saw themselves as citizens of the galaxy rather than just Earth. Children studied alien languages alongside human ones, and interspecies cultural exchanges had become commonplace. Dimensional drive powering up, reported Chief Engineer Sam Foster, Paul Garce's former student. Field stability at 98% and rising. On the main view screen, the space ahead began to shimmer as reality prepared to fold. Approaching threshold, Zix announced, 9th dimensional corridor forming. The ship hummed with energy as the drive engaged. Unlike the violent shift of the original technology, this transition felt smooth, like slipping between sheets of reality with barely a ripple. The starfield outside transformed, revealing colors and patterns no human or alien eye had evolved to see. The crew watched in awe as the universe revealed layers of existence previously hidden. Transition complete, Sam reported. We're fully in the 9th dimensional plane. According to their calculations, they had just moved 50,000 light-years closer to the galactic core in an instant, bypassing regions of space that conventional ships would take decades to cross. "Send the confirmation signal back to Earth," Eric ordered. "Let them know the test was successful." The message would travel back through dimensional space, arriving almost immediately despite the vast distance. Olivia moved to the science station where her former rival, now close colleague, Science Director Cleva of the Council, analyzed the incoming data. "Remarkable," the alien scientist chittered excitedly. "The energy readings from the core are unlike anything we've recorded. This dimensional plane allows us to observe quantum processes directly, just as the ancient equations predicted," Olivia said quietly. They had discovered more ruins over the years, not just on Earth, but throughout the galaxy. The mysterious progenitors who had left the 7th-Dimensional mathematics behind seemed to have vanished millions of years ago, perhaps ascending to these higher planes of existence. "Captain," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a response from Earth and the Council homeworld. They're congratulating us and requesting immediate data transmission." Eric smiled. "Send everything. This discovery belongs to all of us now." Olivia gazed at the transformed universe on the view screen. 5 years ago, aliens had laughed at humanity's primitive technology. Now, humans and aliens worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "Prepare for the approach to the core," Eric ordered. "Let's see what other secrets the universe has been keeping."